Tamar doesn't usually make it into Sunday school flannelgraph sets. Her story in Genesis 38 is messy, scandalous, and uncomfortable for anyone who wants the Bible to be a neat moral guidebook. She was Judah's daughter-in-law, widowed twice, promised security but denied it, and ultimately forced to take matters into her own hands. And what did she do? She disguised herself as a prostitute, slept with her father-in-law, and conceived the children that secured her future. For centuries, Tamar has been branded immoral, a trickster, a schemer, a femme fatale. But in reality, she wasn't a seductress playing games. She was a widow maneuvering in a system stacked against her, surviving in the only way the law left open to her. The story as written. Genesis 38 is blunt in its telling. Tamar marries Judah's son, who dies. By custom, Judah is supposed to give her his second son, Onan, to raise offspring in his brother's name. Onan uses Tamar's body for sex, but refuses to impregnate her, so he too dies. Judah promises her his youngest son, Shelah, once he grows up, but when the time comes, Judah refuses, blaming Tamar as if she were cursed. She is left powerless, abandoned and childless in a culture where survival depended on male protection and sons. When Tamar realizes Judah has no intention of honoring his word, she takes action. Veiled and sitting on the roadside, she positions herself so that Judah himself mistakes her for a prostitute. He sleeps with her, leaving his staff and seal as collateral. When her pregnancy is discovered, Judah moves to have her executed for immorality. But Tamar produces the staff and seal, his own proof of paternity, and exposes him. Judah is forced to admit, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah." The man who tried to condemn her is forced to confess that Tamar was right all along. The skewed facts. What tradition remembers about Tamar is her trickery, her boldness, and her sexuality. What it forgets is the injustice that drove her there. She wasn't chasing forbidden desire. She was fighting for the rights she had been promised. Judah withheld justice, exploited her body, and then tried to punish her when she refused to disappear quietly. The scandal isn't Tamar's decision to take control of her future, it's Judah's hypocrisy. And yet, the label of bad girl stuck to her, while Judah's abuse of power often escapes scrutiny. Tamar in the bigger picture. Tamar gave birth to twins, Perez and Zerah. Perez went on to become an ancestor of King David and is named in the genealogy of Jesus himself. That means Tamar, widow, survivor, strategist, is woven into the very foundation of Israel's history and redemption. Without her cunning, there is no David. Without her courage, there is no lineage to Jesus. For someone cast as a scandal, Tamar's story is nothing short of foundational. The modern connection. Tamar's story mirrors the lives of many women today, especially sex workers and criminalized survivors. Systems promise protection and resources, but often fail to deliver. Women maneuver in unjust conditions to survive, only to be condemned for the choices men force them into. When they expose hypocrisy, whether in courtrooms, shelters, or the press, they are vilified until the evidence becomes too obvious to ignore. Tamar's confrontation with Judah is not so different from modern headlines, where powerful men attempt to destroy the very women they exploit. The pattern repeats. Survivors are criminalized, perpetrators are excused, and the courage it takes to flip the script is minimized. Tamar shows us what happens when a woman refuses to be silenced and forces accountability back on those who failed her. What the anti-trafficking movement can learn, Tamar's story is also a guide for how the anti-trafficking movement could do better. Too often, interventions promise safety, but end up replicating Judah's betrayal, offering conditional support that disappears when it matters most. Like Tamar, survivors today are left waiting, abandoned by institutions that claim to protect them but deliver only suspicion and punishment. Instead of criminalizing survival strategies, the movement should honor them. Tamar found a way to secure her life when every door was closed. Modern anti-trafficking efforts should stop punishing women for making choices within impossible circumstances and start addressing the structural injustices that leave them with no other options. Tamar's demand for recognition also reminds us that survivors must be believed, not treated as liars or manipulators when they tell the truth about abuse. At its best, anti-trafficking work could mirror Tamar's victory, exposing hypocrisy, restoring justice, and protecting not just individuals, but whole families and communities. At its worst, it risks repeating Judah's role, making promises it has no intention of keeping, blaming women for their own exploitation, and condemning them when they fight back. Reclaiming Tamar. Tamar wasn't a seductress. She was a widow denied her rights, a woman navigating a rigged system, a survivor who refused to stay silent. Her boldness didn't just save her life, it reshaped history and secured her a place in the lineage of redemption. Maybe Tamar's story isn't about scandal at all. Maybe it's about the resilience of women who find a way when the system leaves them none. And maybe the reason she was labeled bad is the same reason so many survivors are today, because men in power would rather rewrite history than admit they failed us. This post is part of Swap Behind Bars' series Bad Girls of the Bible, exploring how women's reputations have been shaped by stigma and what that means for sex workers, survivors, and the anti-trafficking movement today.